Hi students, it's Anna Otto. I am at my office Zoom, but none of you are here, so I thought I'd go ahead and make a quick recording of the slides I put together. As you can see, I need to clean up my Halloween decorations on Zoom as well as at my house, but let me show you what I wanted to share. I am trying to clarify a few items from the reviews for chapter 11 and 12. I did write comments on those students who answered other than what I was looking for, but I thought I'd go ahead and give a little explanation too. Okay, so clarification for chapters 11 and 12 reviews. So the most frequently missed question was this one. It was number 16 on chapter 11. So true or false, parent-child disputes are usually severe in adolescence. And to answer this, we can look at a couple of bits of information from the chapter. First of all, and in the beginning of the chapter under information about parent-child relationships, we see that adolescents tend to become more argumentative, and that research shows that puberty is related to a rise in the intensity of parent-child conflicts. So it's more common, and parents and children tend to have more arguments in adolescence than they had prior to that period. But we also find that most disputes are mild, and that throughout adolescence, positive parent-child problem solving greatly exceeds angry confrontations. So that means that while disputes increase in adolescence, they're not typically severe. And that's why the answer to this would be false, that parent-child disputes are not typically severe in adolescence. Another question, this one wasn't so much that students missed it, but I felt like there wasn't necessarily a full depth of understanding. So question, what is hypothetical deductive reasoning? And then provide an example. Hypothetical deductive reasoning is discussed in Piaget's theory, one of the advancements coming along with the development of abstract reasoning and formal operations. So we see that the definition here, when faced with a problem, they, meaning adolescents or individuals, start with a hypothesis or prediction about variables that might affect an outcome from which they deduce logical testable inferences. Then they systematically isolate and combine variables to see which of these inferences are confirmed in the real world. So this is like a real formal scientific approach to problem solving. So when children were younger, they might just kind of pile it all on and change everything up at one time. By the time they move into formal operations and start exercising this hypothetical deductive reasoning, trying to isolate variables, test variables. So certainly that can be applied to formal scientific problems like the pendulum problem that's discussed in the text, and probably the most famous, if you will, of Piaget's problems to highlight this, where you look at different lengths of string, different weights of pendulum, different heights and force, and you test each of these individually in order to see which has an actual effect. But we can also do this less formally in everyday situations. So as teens, as adults, we don't tend to sit around with our everyday life and kind of set up these formal tests for ourselves, but we do informally test things all the time. We think, oh, I think that this would be a good idea, or I think that this is how something works. And so then we try it out, we see if it works. We come up with a testable scenario, we try it, we see if it works, whether it confirms or denies our hypothesis. So you are looking at your review, and number 31, you learned that multitasking greatly reduces learning. Sometimes I think students and younger people, younger adults, don't necessarily believe this because they've grown up trying to multitask. It's something that's a part of everyday life. But the problem is, if you are splitting your attention, you're not going to be doing anything as efficiently. And you can certainly test it for yourselves. Try and, you know, truly read and understand the content of your text while you're checking your social media and maybe texting with a friend, right? Your life situation, we do those kinds of things all the time, but you probably find when you get to the end of the passage that you don't understand it as well as if you just focused on the passage. So think you don't really need to study for a test to prepare. Go ahead, take the test, see how well you do. Maybe you really are prepared, maybe you're not. You can test it out if you come up with this hypothesis for yourself. One other one that I wanted to highlight, and this isn't one that was graded, but it is one that I noticed as I was going through. So, number 3, it says the changes in adolescence are primarily biological or social, right? The idea is circle the answer. And this is a little bit of a trick, and I wrote it this way because it's on the review, not on the test, because the answer is both. They're both significant biological as well as social changes that happen along with adolescence. Certainly, the biological changes are more obvious: the increasing body size, the development of secondary sexual characteristics, the onset of menstruation, or the ability to have an erection and ejaculation in a male. So, those are all biological changes that are happening, often fairly obvious, sometimes uncomfortable. There are also social changes also. When we see somebody who has this appearance that's more adult-like, we have more adult-like expectations for them. We give kids more rights and more responsibilities, more privileges as they move into adolescence. So just really understand that both are going on. Okay. Moving to chapter 12, this idea of true or false: most young people move through adolescence with little disturbance. If you answered this incorrectly, I wrote a comment on your review, but this comes straight from the text. So we can see under the section problems of development, it says most young people move through adolescence with little disturbance. So certainly little challenges, little hiccups, some argumentativeness, some maybe challenges of parents with friends is very common, but true disturbance, not common. And the very last one: sibling relationships, do they become more or less intense during adolescence, and both positive and negative feelings? I'd say the majority of students got this one correct, but just to clarify this, again, straight from the text, the section about families, particularly the section about siblings, directly says sibling relationships often become less intense in both positive and negative feelings. Truth is, siblings often are spending less time with each other. They're spending more time with friends and outside of the family. They're kind of becoming more confident and competent in who they are, competing less for that parental time, that resource of parental time and attention. All of those things tend to lead to less intensity in sibling relationships. Okay, just a few things to review. Good luck when you take the test.